I'm Tom Kazee, president of the university, and it's my privilege to be able to introduce our guest today. Thank you for joining us on this wonderful spring day. I think we just skipped summer. You know, we've gone straight to the fall, I think, already. You made a good choice in coming today, for you're going to be treated to a stimulating exploration of the intersections between the business world and the global community. The University of Evansville is, as you know, deeply committed to international engagement and the exploration of ways in which we can better prepare our students to be citizens of the global community. This is evident in so many ways in the life of the university. Our array of study abroad programs, highlighted by the distinctive Harlexton experience on our British campus outside Grantham, England. The substantial number of international students who study here, and the programs that support them, such as the Intensive English Center, that make their experience more successful and rewarding. And our strategic commitment to extend and enrich international activity and involvement. Indeed, just within the last few months, we've created an office dedicated to international engagement and hired a talented director, Dr. Wes Milner, and charged him with leading our efforts to make this place an even more superb example of global awareness and learning. UE's commitment to creating a global mindset is evident as well in our Institute for Global Enterprise in Indiana, which is building bridges between the university and the regional business community. The Institute is dedicated to helping these businesses navigate in international waters that are often daunting, sometimes unsettled, and that require considerable seamanship. The Institute has become an important resource for our students and our broader community. And the way the Institute fulfills its charge is to bring talented people to campus who can share their expertise and wisdom about the international environment. Today's speaker is a wonderful example of the benefits of learning from others who know the global landscape. Our guest is Dr. Jaime Alonso Gomez. I want you to know a bit about him, but appreciate that I've had to do a considerable amount of editing to reduce this introduction to a manageable length. Given the breadth and depth of Dr. Gomez's experience, accomplishments, and awards, I would suggest you Google him if you want to learn more about his life. It's really a terrific story. Dr. Gomez has been a researcher and consultant for companies and institutions in countries across 5 continents. He has university degrees from schools in Mexico, Canada, Japan, and the United States, with his PhD coming from the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. His research and teaching have focused on global leadership, strategic management, business model design, and family business. Dr. Gomez serves on many company boards, editorial boards, and NGO boards in Europe and the Americas. Currently, Dr. Gomez is Distinguished Professor of Strategy and International Business at Tec de Monterrey Systems Graduate School of Business Administration and Leadership, also known as EGADE, in Mexico City. During his tenure at EGADE, the institution has been recognized as the top Latin American business school in the world by American Economia, among the top business schools in the world by Financial Times and The Economist, and in the top 20 business schools in the world by the Wall Street Journal. Dr. Gomez has a joint appointment through a University of San Diego Tec de Monterrey partnership as a Distinguished Professor of International Business in San Diego's Ehlers Center. Ehlers Center? Ehlers Center, thank you. On a more personal UE level, Dr. Gomez has worked with Dr. Steve Standiford, Dean of the Schrader Family School of Business Administration, and Katie Ciccarelli, Director of Program Development of the Institute for Global Enterprise in Indiana. Both know him well from their work together at the University of San Diego, and both are very excited about Dr. Gomez's visit to the University of Evansville. It was my pleasure within the last hour to get a chance to meet Dr. Gomez, and I think you will be as charmed and as enlightened by him as I was. Please welcome Dr. Jaime Alonso Gomez.
It is really nice to be here enjoying this wonderful weather. My participation is going to be in Spanish. No, I'm just kidding. In fact, some years ago, thank you for this wonderful introduction. Some years ago, I was in a similar situation in Los Angeles. And the person who introduced me said something kind of humorous. He said that I had degrees from Mexico, Canada, and the United States. So therefore, let me introduce Dr. NAFTA, North American Free Trade. Yes, I am North American by education, but Mexican by mustache. Anyway. Today, I would like to share with you some ideas on how a university could become, can we close these lights, the first row? No? Okay. It's always nice to have choices. How a university could become an engine for sustainable development. The agenda for today, in the initial 20 minutes, I would like to share with you our global business environment and the 9 dimensions of the global economy. Thank you. Second, in about 15 minutes, I would like to introduce the university as an engine for development metaphor, and in particular how a university could become an active agent in fostering sustainable development in a holistic fashion. And finally, I would like to have a conversation and reflection on the topics shared. At the end of the conversation, this is my conclusion. How can we as a university migrate from good to great? And in particular around 3 areas. Let us design a strategic bet that includes a strategic posture and a business model to operate as a university with the metaphor of a university as an engine for development. That strategic bet includes global leadership and competence, entrepreneurship and sustainable wealth creation, and a robust ethical thinking, reasoning, and moral behavior. And the third conclusion will be all of these situations about an engine for development, what are the implications on internal back office academic variables, and how to start an impeccable execution. This is going to be my conclusion. Now let me try to elaborate the topic. The topic actually is sustained on 2 recent books I was able to co-author with good colleagues around the world. Globalization of Management Education and Leaders for Tomorrow. One of the main initiatives and one of the main situations about how to start is we need to start with a posture. Are we going to be a shaper? Are we going to be a follower? Do nothing or learn from others and be the last mover? And I don't want to say University A is here, University B is here, but we need to come up with a strategic posture. We in Monterrey Tech decided to be a shaper in the presence of different levels of uncertainty. And I will elaborate that in the second part of my talk. What is let me see if I can play with the lights a little bit. What is the person who was assisting me? TV, computer.
Yeah. Try.
It's going to be the last button, I'm sure. Yeah. All right. That's good. So we can all take a nap. That's good. That's good enough.
You okay with that?
That's perfect. Yes.
Snoring and the lights go back on.
No problem. I can put up with that. Yeah, snoring is nice. This is a picture of the old world. New York, London, Paris. This is a picture of the new world. Hong Kong, Kuala Lumpur, Singapore. This is a picture of the world in terms of people who make less than $1 a day and when they are located, and over $200 a day and when they are located. Definitely we see a symmetry right here. And this is a picture of the other world in which 4 billion people actually live, work, and buy things like earrings, necklaces, bracelets, blouses, shirts, wood, blankets. The point here is instead of saying these are really poor people, what is the business model? to actually serve the population of 4 million people around the world. They buy TV services, air conditioning, metal, animals, water. For instance, we can see here that many people borrow electricity indefinitely. And we can see this as borrowing versus an entrepreneurial young man who says, I will make you a connection for $2. Or someone from our School of Engineering will do something like this in a more, perhaps, modern fashion. Our School of Engineering, packaging engineering, you know, we could think of milk gallons or something like a second use for this. Or perhaps if we take into consideration the 8 Millennium Goals, in year 2000, a group of VIPs got together in New York and they came out with 8 Millennium Goals. Let us eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. Let us reduce child mortality, improve maternal health. How are we doing? They need to be totally fulfilled by year 2015. Are we doing okay? Intuitively speaking. The answer is no. And many times it is because we tend to see all of these goals are philanthropic or charitable related. But what about if we consider this in terms of opportunities for business? For instance, if we consider the base of the pyramid market, where 4 billion people actually live, just when it comes to food, roughly speaking, we have a $3 billion opportunity. It has a 3 and 12 zeros to the right. How many burritos is that? All of them, right? So the idea is, how do we actually switch the approach from philanthropy and charity to energy, housing, transportation opportunities? Let me start with an example. A young lady in California took, let us reduce child mortality as a business opportunity, but sustainable economically, and so on. Well, there are 20 million babies which are born in this particular size. Very small babies, and about 4 million of those actually die because they do not have access to an incubator like this. In order to have an incubator like this, I need a minimum of $10,000, educated nurses, sterile environment, and I need spare parts, and many other things. So to think of one of these devices in the rural areas of Peking emerging economy would be impossible. Then a group of engineers said, I could replicate this with business model design for extreme affordability, and they used to have an old Toyota pickup, and you can see here the lights, the batteries inside this particular compartment, and this is a Pyrex kind of reflecting inside all the heat in order to keep the temperature of the baby, but I still need to have a Toyota. But this young lady said, what about if we design a mini sleeping bag that needs no electricity, no moving parts, totally portable, easy to clean because babies actually produce a lot of organic waste. And the interesting part of this mini sleeping bag is that it has a pouch. You introduce hot water, and then the pouch goes here on the back, and it has longitudinal and horizontal heat diffusers. And the temperature stays for 4 hours between 37 and 36 Celsius, which is exactly what the baby needs for survival. And actually, this is really interesting because she went to Novartis and General Electric to have the stamp and the endorsement of these companies in order to bring credibility into the product. Then she was able to talk to governments and have the approval in order to be sold as baby incubators. And finally, NGOs as distributors of the particular product. Well, and it has one additional component. As a mother, I can take the baby close to my heart, and that is the emotional connection with the mother instead of having the baby in another room totally in isolation. It increases the probability of life for these babies. And now, this young lady who actually produced a mini sleeping bag bifurcated the market into business to business and business to customer. In the business to business, selling the baby sleeping bag to NGOs and rural clinics is $300 because it is sold as a baby incubator, and I am liable for any particular situation that could emerge. also sell the baby blanket, I sell it as a baby blanket at around $4. In one, it's a baby incubator. In here, it's just a gift for recently born babies. And in both cases, I make money and I save lives. This is a good example in which I put together a sustainable business in order to accomplish the Millennium Goals. I'm saying that the Millennium Goals could be a source of tremendous input for business opportunities, socially responsible social enterprises. We see pictures, this is already in the market. Now let me provide two additional examples. In this base of the pyramid markets, 4 billion people live. And about half of the population is women, 2 billion women. And about 1.3 billion women have kids, are in reproduction stages, and they are poor. They make less than $2 a day. So if I am Lupita in Bolivia, and I have 3 kids and I make $2 a day, do you think I'm going to see a doctor to have a medical checkup? The answer is no, first, because there is no doctor. Second, I have no money. And third, I will never allow a doctor to see me or touch me. So I'm going to die. Why? Because people living in this population are susceptible to a particular kind of cancer, which is cervicouterine cancer. The vaccine against this cancer in the United States is $300. So if I am Jimena or Lupita in these areas, I will never be able to see a doctor for a medical checkup. Well, I want to talk to the Dean of the School of Engineering, and then the Dean of the School of Medicine, and now the Dean of the School of Business, and we created a prototype like this, a little bit smaller in diameter, and it projects, it is self-managed by women. They introduce the prototype into the women's anatomy, and it projects some light, not this one, but another kind of light, into the women's biology, and then via optical technology, the light goes back through the prototype, and it projects a set of colors on a white screen, and depending on the colors, the woman is able to diagnose if she has cancer or not. And the principle is very simple. A cancer tissue is red and black, and it doesn't bounce light out. And the price of this prototype is $2. Again, this is a technology-based, innovation-driven, socially responsible new venture. The avocado example. Those of us who like avocados, it's a really tasteful and delicious fruit. However, the seed of the avocado is really like a mini chemical plant. For instance, the seed of the avocado has repellent properties that inhibits bugs coming to eat the pulp of the avocado. Well, we actually identified that because it says insect repellent. Because women in rural areas take the seed of the avocado, they split it into 2, they put it in the water for about 3 days, and then they get the water, and they sprinkle the water around all the baby's room corners. So when the baby is crawling around, no spiders, no bugs come into the baby's room, and also it is not toxic. It is a non-toxic repellent. Via molecular biology, we isolated this property, and we sell it to the tourism and adventure tourism, ecological tourism and adventure tourism sector, and it is a $3 billion opportunity at this moment. Now, because when I prepare guacamole, which is a Mexican dish, what do I do with the seed of the avocado? I put it into the guacamole in order to preserve the freshness of the guacamole. Well, it's a food preserver. Instead of taking all of these chemicals, which when I go above a particular level, they become toxic. Well, the preservation property is non-toxic, and now via molecular biology, we isolated this property, and it is now a $7 billion opportunity in the food industry. But another interesting property is I smash it on a mortar, I make a little paste, and I mix 3 parts of this with 2 parts of cucumber and 1 part of tomato. I mix them all, and I wear it as a mascara. It cleans my skin, it avoids wrinkles, and it makes my skin look beautiful. Well, now we have avocado shampoos, avocado soaps, and avocado cosmetics. It's a $10 billion opportunity. All of these just by looking how people use the seed of the avocado in rural areas. So instead of going to MAC and Victoria's Secret for cosmetics, I go to the avocado tree. As simple as that. As I continue looking at the world, this is another company I'm working with, Teva. Teva is a pharmaceutical company, and they are migrating from $40 to $31 million. They basically are all over the world, and the main product is Copaxone. It's a particular medication against multiple sclerosis. But they also have many other products. But they want to serve the VOP markets. So we went to Japan, and we realized that in Japan there is one vending machine per 20 persons. So everything is on the go. I actually lived a couple of years in Japan. And then I invited people in Teva to explore the value-added chain in the pharmaceutical industry. People in basic research, they make out of $100, 5.7, 2.68 in product design, 15% in manufacturing, and 62 in commercial. So what is the business here in the pharmaceutical? Manufacturing and commercial. But what about if we distribute non-prescription medication via vending machines? OTC, over the counter. And this is a very low-cost distribution system to serve the DOP markets. I'm talking about social enterprise, being able to distribute low-cost medication to less than privileged markets. This is a picture of the world in terms of the technological innovators, the technological adapters, and the technologically excluded. So we have a chunk of the world that innovates, develops patents, designs, those who tropicalize and adapt, and the technologically excluded. For people who say, oh, this is really sad, hey, come on, this is a tremendous opportunity to do something to close the asymmetries. I've been working with a company in Argentina, the name is Globant. It's a software factory in Buenos Aires. They design the software here, and they sell it here. It's now the 8th software development factory in the whole world, by having the brain power of the South and the purchasing power of the North. It is very interesting to see all of these business opportunities. This is a picture of the world at night that proves that the world is flat. No, I'm just kidding. But look at the consumption of electricity and the technological innovators. Pretty much the same. In fact, if we get close, we can easily identify Puerto Rico, New York, Dallas, Houston, and that little dark place is Evansville. No, I'm just kidding. Here we have Madrid, Paris. See, this is a geography lesson. And look what happened in Egypt. Everything developed around the Amazon River. It's the Nile River. And then look at the tremendous differences in terms of GDP per capita. This is South Korea, $22,000. And North Korea, 450. So you can easily, well actually you don't see North Korea. Anyway, this is a picture of the world in year 2050, around 4 p.m. I'm just kidding. The darker the green color, the more chronologically sophisticated the population is. So older guys. So Spain, Italy, and Austria, more than 40% of the population will have more than 60 years of age. So, in addition to funeral services, what are the business opportunities that we can think of in a demographic situation like this? That would be actually avocado stuff. So, for chronologically sophisticated demographic situations, what are the business opportunities? Everything related to healthcare, everything related to entertainment, including Viagra. And traveling. So many things that we could consider, but the north of the world is going to be older, and the south is going to be younger. So definitely we have many opportunities to take into our teaching, into our business opportunities. As we continue looking at the world, there are, roughly speaking, in this part of the world, population birth rates are 0 or negative. So who's going to sustain the pension funds? Migrants. 2 million migrants. Well, what are the business opportunities that we can think of, and also help the migrant workers become better situated and positioned in the places where they go to. Look at this little car. This is, let us take Katie Ciccarelli years into the future. She's a really active faculty member, a couple of kids, going to the supermarket, having additional activities, always stressed. into, you know, she's stressed out, and then she goes into the car, and then the car talks to her and says, take it easy, relax. The car is able to identify states of affairs and moods of the occupant, and then gives verbal therapy to calm people. And it is only $1,700. So I do not know if I should buy a new computer or a new car. I could also consider the Tata Nano, $2,500. And I could compare the Tata Nano, a good Mercedes-Benz with my Tata Nano, or with another kind of mini car, or a Tata Nano with this. Actually, some people who say, I'm really creative and innovative, I'm going to extend with a third wheel this motorcycle, or I'm going to sell this car with a financial plan. And actually, it is much better to sell the car with a financial plan. Where, you know, I'm going to give it even for, you know, direct cost. The business is not only important, it's the financial plan. This is a picture of the world in geo-economic terms. If the United States is 100%, Brazil is 13%, Spain is 8%, and Japan 35%. Look at the geo-economic size of Africa and the geographic size of Africa, the geographic size of Japan, and the geo-economic size of Japan. Again, we can look at all of these pictures and stimulating the right-hand side of the brain in terms of, wow, this is really interesting, versus, wow, so many opportunities for my future as a professional. So instead of looking for a good job, which is fine, let's look to become an entrepreneur. From nursing, from communication sciences, from business, from engineering, from sociology. There are so many things I can do. As I continue, look at the picture of religion and culture. This is the Catholic world, the Protestant world, and the Islamic world. What about religion and my future? Like, think of business opportunities. Immediately, trips to Rome, to La Mecca, trips to Jerusalem. This is all related to religion. And the world according to peace. Would you consider that the United States, Brazil, and Mexico have the same level of peace? Well, the answer is yes. If we measure peace in terms of 24 factors, such as ongoing domestic and international conflicts, societal safety and security, and militarization. So according to these 24 factors, yes, it is exactly the same level of peace. So we don't think of peace as Canada and the United States is substantially different, and also European countries, and needless to say the other colors. As we continue looking at the world, before the crisis, the Royal Bank of Scotland assets were, roughly speaking, twice the size of the GDP of Brazil. The Deutsche Bank was, roughly speaking, 100 times the GDP of Canada. If all of these banks had been countries, they would have been larger than Netherlands, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, and Spain and Canada. If those banks had been countries, they would have been larger than any single country in Latin America, and being consistent with the same years. The value of Google is, roughly speaking, larger than Luxembourg, Serbia, Uruguay, Costa Rica, and Iceland GDPs. And if we took into consideration the 10 richest people on earth, last year, $404 billion. Nowadays, it is twice the size of the GDP of Indiana. 10 people are richer than the whole state of Indiana. Just to give us an idea of the tremendous asymmetries and business opportunities, sustainable business opportunities that we have. As we continue looking like growth is going to be coming from China, India, Brazil, Russia, and Indonesia. So going to England is great, but going to these places for business opportunities is better. So exchanges, study abroad programs. And then we have social mega trends, day-to-day connectivity, lifelong learning, biotech, info, nano, enviro, and new technological mega trends. All of these related to ethical thinking and listening. These are the technology parks and cities of knowledge around the world. Most of them are in the northern hemisphere, and labor is all in the south, not sustainable. And then we have economic integration, terrorism around the world, and with the new technologies, the world is flat. Basically, in this new global economy, Being a cheap place to do business used to be the key. Now being a place rich in ideas and talent is the key. Attracting companies used to be the key. Now attracting and forging educated people is fundamental. This is the old paradigm. This is the new paradigm. My question for everybody here is, where is Evansville and Indiana? Roughly around this particular axis. Mid-skill, knowledge-based manufacturing activities. The difference between the CEO salary and the CEO and the blue-collar worker salary in Japan is 11 times. 20 in Canada, 47 in Mexico, 470 times in the United States. What is that provoking? Brain drain. The United States, the Netherlands, and Chile are number 1, 2, and 3 countries attracting or retaining brains. And down here, we have China, Colombia, Sweden, Venezuela, India, South Africa, and Russia. These 3 countries, India, South Africa, and Russia, they share the brains with the whole world, which is another way to say they are not able to keep the brains at home. Well, this is the impact of India in the United States. 38% of all medical doctors non-USA come from India. 12% of all scientists come from India, and 36 and 34% of all employees at NASA and Microsoft. What is the meaning of nationalism in a global arena? And young kids in Europe, now they have a European passport. So it is really interesting to understand globalization. And finally, in the new global economy, we need to move this fast. And many times we are just waiting for everything just to be perfect. In the new global economy, I need a new leadership. And many times I don't even have a horse. I have a mule. And the head is this way. We used to understand the world in geographic and geopolitical terms. The geography of Eastern European and African countries has changed, including the geopolitical configuration. The first, the second, and the third world. The second is gone. Communism. And I introduced geotechnological, energetic, demographic, economic, psychological with terrorism, geobiological with the new diseases, and sociocultural with the new lifestyles. We are from 2 to 9 dimensions. Please, don't tell me that with the formulas of the past, we are going to solve the opportunities of the future. For people who are chronologically sophisticated like me, more than 30 years old, I cannot say. The question is how much of what I have learned in the past is valid to operate in the future. For those of you who are about to graduate, and I say this in confidence to you, it's kind of a secret. When you're looking for a job, and somebody on the other side of the table is interviewing you and say, hey, you're really good when you have no work experience, so I cannot hire you. You say, hey, come on, that is my most competitive advantage, because I have not been polluted by all types like you. So say it nicely. But actually, that's exactly what we want, your innovation-driven ideas. So this is the end of the first part. Let me switch now to, is there a new role for universities? So the answer is, this is a rhetoric question. Well, I would like to share with you the university as an engine for knowledge-based development. And for instance, what is the role of the University of Evansville in bringing Evansville level of development to the next level, to the next step? I'm going to start with the university, higher education institutions as an engine for development. Development of peace and prosperity via wealth creation, sustainable wealth creation. I'm going to strategize with you. As an education supplier, I could supply traditional programs, students, professors, toolboxes, skills, teaching, and research. Or I could provide differentiated blue ocean education, differentiation, globalization, strategic bets. And this is value perception, high value, low value. If I ask you, what is the worst quadrant to be? Many of us would say, number 1, commodity-like teaching programs, low value perception. What is the best quadrant to be? Number 3. Well, the worst quadrant to be is not actually number 1. The worst quadrant to be is in the middle. No focus. definitely move away from that particular place in the middle. For instance, if I want to move strategically, I'm going to use proximity and attractiveness. Geographic proximity, cultural proximity, mission proximity, local vocations from the area. For instance, a geographic proximity highly attractive could be Mexico, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, Peru. Culturally speaking, because of the German heritage of the area, could be Germany. Spain, France, and England are also culturally or geographically close. And I could play with other regions. But in addition to countries, I could play industries into the matrix. So that would be really nice when we strategize the mission and vision statement for the university in 2017 or 2020. In 2017 or 2020, when I am reading the newspaper and having my first cup of coffee, what do I want to read about the University of Evansville? Why do I want to read about the School of Business, the School of Engineering, or Health Sciences? What is it that I want to read? How do I envision the future of the university? Well, if we go for international, which is great, I could do student exchange, faculty exchange, staff exchange, joint research, all the way down to franchising degrees. Well, all of this is business as usual. All of this is already done. So what is the next level? Can we create transatlantic, trans-Pacific, cross-border sustainable wealth? New companies, new enterprises, international education at the base of the pyramid. Anyway, something to be designed here. If I am in domestic or want to go to global, from traditional to innovation driven. If I am in domestic and traditional, this is business as usual. Then domestic but innovation driven, elective courses, andragogics education, multicultural programs, distance learning, executive ed. So what do I have here? And this needs to be produced at the level of each university. Monterrey Tech is a multi-campus university system in Mexico. That's my school. We have 93,000 students, 8,000 professors, 33 campuses all over the geography of the country. We have the Triple Crown accreditation in the School of Business, accredited in the United States, Europe, and AMBA. And as the president of the university already mentioned, we've been in the top 20 of the whole world. And we have international operations in all of these countries, 350 exchange programs, because 50% of the population needs to be exposed to an international learning experience. Every year we send abroad 5,000 students. They come from abroad and we send 6,000 to all of these regions that we have identified as relevant to the opportunities of our students. Also, we have sent abroad 4,800 students, professors in the last 5 years as faculty development programs, and we also received 2,100 as faculty development programs. We selected the challenges and opportunities of the country, like sustainable wealth creation, international competitiveness of individuals and organizations, democracy for a competitive society, and so on. And for these challenges, we created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 initiatives. For instance, every single business that we produce, like the examples of the avocado or the cancer detection, needs to be innovation-driven, technology-based, and socially responsible. Last year of my tenure as dean, 963 new companies were launched into the market, including 25,000 new jobs. We are migrating from business administration, because business administration is now performed by SAP, ERP, CRM, and all of these software packages. So we're moving from business administration into business design. A new leader in the global economy, leaders are designers. We emphasize design. And we include innovative and more robust education methods. Let's go into an example. This is the vision of the school. Everything that we do needs to be scientific, needs to be artistic, and needs to be action-oriented. So we selected everything that we do is relevant, design-oriented, and it provides new wealth, and entrepreneurship, and needs to be transformational for the person who actually goes through the process. International andragogic learning and social responsibility. This is the vision, And based on the vision, we said, this is consensus and this is certainty. For instance, in the high consensus, high certainty area, this is traditional business, engineering, social sciences education. This is the area of comfort. We all agree because whatever we do here, we are certain it's going to work. Good accounting, generally accepted accounting principles. If I move to the low certainty, low consensus, that is where my strategic bet for differentiation starts. And here we have something in the middle. Well, this is a red ocean, and this is a blue ocean. So definitely we need to create something substantially different. Well, this is the example of the university as an engine. For instance, this is one of many examples. This is the configuration of employment in Mexico. Companies between 0 and 2 employees, 19% of the total number of companies. Between 3 and 5 employees, 13%. This is pretty much self-employment. Then between 11 and 15, 4%, 3%, and more than 1,000 employees, 13%. 61% of total employment is generated from here on. So far, so good. This is the configuration of the enterprise profile. If we created, as a university or as a business organization, 60 new companies in this particular range of employees, this is the impact on GDP, 0. Between 31 and 50, 0.01% impact on GDP. And between more than 1,000, the impact on GDP will be 1.6 of the Mexican GDP. Then we did something similar in terms of, if we create 60 new companies, how many new jobs will be created in the same ranges? And we said, this is not going to work. What do we need to do? We took all the companies between 11 and 15 and 51 and 100, and we included these companies into an acceleration process to move them to the next level. And then we're creating new growth and new employability. After we did that, we invited all the students in our university system to go to the micro-regions in Mexico, in rural areas, and we created rural incubators to produce rural wealth. We also created 1,700 community centers in which we were bringing education to all the less than privileged areas in Mexico to have education as a vertical mobility factor. This is the social service. Every single student in our university needs to give back to society 450 hours for free. That's a regulation in order to have a degree. In summary, we created 963 new companies, and 132 died as part of the natural processes. Well, this is still a really nice ratio. Rural incubators, 30. We also, education for the new generations, leadership for sustainable development. This is a stamped seminar that every single student needs to comply with. Community centers, and we migrated from business administration to business design, including product services and so on and so forth. Well, these are pictures of technology parks inside our campuses. For instance, we realized that Ford Motor Company was looking for a place to install the design center. We went to Ford Motor Company and said, we'll give you the real estate, we'll help you build the facility, we'll give you access to internet, we'll give you access to physical education facilities and the cafeteria on campus. And in exchange, if you place your design center on campus, you're going to take our engineering students into internships, and your PhDs in design, mechanical engineering, and so on. They will produce in-teaching possibilities with local faculty members. They said yes. Now we have design centers from major multinationals inside our campuses. And obviously this is good for employment. This is an incubator, pictures of our incubators. This is a picture of the Center for Sustainable Innovation and Strategic Development of Products. And that's where the students actually do all the prototyping. We also go into biotechnology. We have a biotechnology center for biomaterials, probiotics, nutraceuticals. We have health sciences, working with engineering and business, industrial design, and we are participating intensely in technology parks. And this is a university campus built around software development with IBM, Carnegie Mellon, and SoftBank. So the idea is that the students, when they go to university and college for 4 years, they also engage as junior designers of software. Anyway, these are pictures of how the role of universities in a market-driven economy is changing substantially and rapidly. Can universities become an active agent of changing society? Definitely, that is a rhetorical question. The whole idea is the transformation of business, governments, and institutions for a more peaceful and prosperous future. We have patents. As a university, we are the #1 patent producer in Mexico. And we definitely see ourselves as an engine for development on specific and strategic sectors. We have an incubator and accelerator. Schools work together, medicine, public policy, engineering, and we definitely participate in the life of technology parks and cities of knowledge. This is a hard indicator. 5 years after our students graduate, 39% is or has been a business owner. 13% is or has been in public service, socially responsible mentality, and 28% belongs or has belonged to a civil association. And 25 years later, 76 is a business owner, 23% in public service, and more than 50% have been in civil associations. Basically, suggestions. Let us start with strategic bet, a compelling and energizing vision, a strategic posture, and then we need to have a business model which is sustainable. On what? On global leadership and competence, entrepreneurship and wealth creation, and robust ethical reasoning and moral behavior. And definitely we had to make changes on all of these elements. I will produce a couple of elements, and then I'm going to stop. I asked my faculty members, in order to become really global, to have a joint appointment at another university. What does that mean? That between 4 and 6 weeks per year, our faculty members need to go abroad and have a position with IMD in Lausanne, Switzerland, or WHU in Germany. The idea is, by design, to have faculty members listed in the catalog of the other schools and vice versa. Well, roughly speaking, 37% of the faculty members had a joint appointment, and these professors were the main ambassadors for our local universities to go abroad and to bring students from abroad. A second activity I was inviting the faculty members to do was have a position in a company board. What do you mean by that? Yes, become a member of a company board. And actually I was very united because many of the faculty members, about 25%, became board members of multinational enterprises, and everything they were teaching in the classroom was rigorous, robust, and relevant. So that was actually a very good combination. So the whole idea is to really enrich and enhance the faculty member profile as an active learning agent as opposed to a teaching activity only. And that made us #1 in the world according to the ranking of the economy. To move from teaching to learning, organizing learning dynamics. At the end, basically, we selected the challenges of the country. We developed strategic initiatives in the school. We wanted to become a differentiated, innovation-driven, socially responsible institution, but in the end, we wanted to have robust democracy, grounded citizens, wealth creation and employability, and new companies for the new economy, and improved international competitiveness. So this is part #2 of my presentation, and the third one is, let's have a discussion and a reflection on the role of universities as an engine for development. I would like to open the forum for any particular interaction. We still have 7 more minutes before we finish our session tonight. You can ask any questions, including why I have such a big mustache. Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts on transportation fuels?
Well, there is a whole revolution, as you know. In fact, my question back to you would be, what is the School of Engineering and Oil and Petroleum Sciences doing about it? Like, how are we preparing the faculty members, the research lines? What is the endowment of the school doing? As a dean of the school, am I looking for new endowment and new grants in order to really anticipate as opposed to follow the market? It is changing dramatically. So, for us in universities, we cannot wait to see what happens. We need to find strategic posture. That is my response. We need to move fast. In fact, in the new economy, speed is much more important than precision. I will go for 70% precision, 30% uncertainty. And as I move along, I fix it. I will go 70-30. Yeah. Yes, sir.
What was the time scale on the change of your university?
7 years. 7 years and many emotional crises from the beginning of the course. But we're really moving away. So let's do something meaningful in a sense and leave a legacy to society. After 20 years of being in academia in positions of administration, I asked myself, what is next to me? Let's go back to Professor Evansville. Let's go back to the last year. As a dean, as an administration, because I had additional administration responsibilities, it was really nice to migrate from an initial state of affairs to becoming an engine for sustainable wealth creation. And that's what we're doing now. So the university, many times, people who come and visit with us, they say, what are you, a university or an institution for economic development? We have education with a purpose. That's how we describe ourselves. We're really entrepreneurs at university. They're entrepreneurs. Yes, ma'am.
I teach Spanish culture, Latin American culture.
I am unable to listen to you.
I said I teach Spanish, Latin American culture, and literature. Where do you see the humanities and the general liberal arts education in this transformation of the university?
It pervades everything that we do. Like, I am an engineer with a PhD in economics. Nobody's perfect, okay? But for instance, if we do not really understand the meaning of social sciences, how will we be able to have good economic business models? If I'm a good engineer in a local company here, and I don't have cross-cultural skills to lead and do projects around the world with multicultural forces, I'm going to be totally limited. So to me, it is part of everyday life. In fact, we foster cross-disciplinary teams and transdisciplinary teams. We don't want to be limited by the disciplines. In fact, I dislike, and this is nothing personal, I dislike the way the question was presented. Because problems and opportunities in the world do not happen in silos, in academic silos. They happen in wholes. So it would be really nice if we move away from the disciplines and we try to have a better emulation of what reality is in order to design learning dynamics. But I see the point that you're making as we do everything with people. If I do not understand sociology, history, anthropology, it would be really difficult to understand the cross-cultural forces in a global economy. Like anytime I go, I've been working in 50 countries for more than 100 companies. Before I go, I learn about a particular country. I learn about astronomy, history, political issues, so I can be culturally consonant. And I like the word consonant because I am from music. When I play a guitar and one of the strings is out of tune, I still make noise, but I am totally dissonant. So what about if I move from making noise to being culturally consonant? So you teach Spanish. Well, I'm sure that you understand that Spanish in Argentina or Spain are substantially different. And not only Spanish, or the language, but also the culture. Like Argentina was conquered by the Spanish and colonized by the Italians. And these cultural dynamics are fundamental to understand when I do business in Argentina versus when I do business in Bolivia or in Paraguay, which are much more indigenous conditions. So those are the situations I need to learn as an engineer when I do business, or as a business, or as a medical doctor. My son is a medical doctor, and he actually engages in many of these dynamics, culturally and linguistically based dynamics. So to me, they are fundamental. We just need to design how to include them in curriculum redesign in order to have culturally consonant, effective leaders. And I could provide in more concrete ways, when we have played, how we actually did it. And we created not only literature, but communications, media people, from other schools. Yes, sir.
Second question. Now, during that 7 years, what financial model or funding sources did you have to create this change within the university?
Well, several. Once you define a compelling vision about a particular future, like for instance, for the software company, the technology market presented, I said, do we want to be visible in a global arena? That was a rhetorical question. And I said, well, we have this incubator and accelerator for software factories. Would you like to be a member of this? And then I said, would you like to be bronze, silver, or gold, or platinum? And actually, the last two were taken, so it's either gold or platinum. Another is, instead of selling training and education services, we became the business partner for executive development for companies. We closed all open enrollment programs, and we only did on-site, company-driven executive education seminars starting at $250,000. So we had to reorganize the school. Also, I was doing some accountability of how many dollars or pesos each faculty member was able to generate. And we changed the business model, and we consider faculty members as business units, as opposed to content providers. And it was a very nice, and the proper set of incentives was put in place. Also, for instance, if an A journal paper was being produced and published, $10,000. But if you have a co-author who comes from another country, $15,000. So proper incentives to become globally recognized. And all of those monies came from sponsors. So my role as a dean was pretty much to get the money to have like impeccable execution. But what is the easy part? It's all faculty members. It's not so easy part. No. We respond to incentive. Human beings. Yes?
What advice would you have for students who have never studied business but have recognized the social problem that they are passionate about changing?
Well, to be involved, definitely, if I recognize a need, an expectation, a desire, I don't have to go to Ghana or to exotic places. I can go to Missouri, Mississippi, and Alabama to do that. Or for instance, here in Indiana, the GDP per capita of the state is $21,000, way below the national average. Like, what do I need to do in order to like, only 19% of the population in the state has college education. Don't you think there are many opportunities to be involved here? So many. That's where exactly the deans of the schools, the university, we pulled together, we could really make a change, a substantial change. As a student, I want to be involved. And if I don't have the engineering or the business knowledge, come on. Develop a network. Actually, one of the things that we institutionalize in the school is horizontal programs. Like the entrepreneurship program was open for students across the whole campus. The ethics and social responsibility program was open to students from all campus. And obviously, we have to reconfigure the role of the faculty in a more systemic, holistic way as opposed to disciplines. For instance, one thing in conjunction with the faculty member, we managed all academic departments because we didn't want faculty members to report to the marketing, finance, and mechanical engineering. We said programs, we provide research, we are centers of opinion. Let me give you an example. Instead of teaching human resources management, now we're teaching human dynamics in organizations. And that implies psychology, sociology, history, human resources, and many other elements. So we migrated from disciplines to processes. We try to emulate as much as possible what happens in real life. So that took a major change for faculty members, not only to make their disciplines robust, but also to learn about other disciplines and start teaching processes. Actually, not teaching, designing learning dynamics. It was very nice. Very nice. But it was not easy. Many times my head wasn't in B2B. Many times. But I'm still here. That doesn't prove I was successful. That proves I was viable and expendable.